Well, welcome once again for another Burn Friday Burn and the commands of Christ. This crazy weather that we've been having, I expect before the day's out to hear that we're fixing to be placed under a winter storm warning. Last Friday, it was so cold out here, wind blowing, the fire was really good. It was so cold. 3 days before that, I was wearing short sleeve shirt just like I am today. Weather is just so unpredictable, but still, I'll welcome you for another Burn Friday Burn. And last week, if you will remember, we did command number 37, bring in the poor. This week, command number 38, render to Caesar. Let's see. This scripture here has something to say about that. We're going to go to Matthew chapter 22, verse 20 and 21. Whose picture and title are stamped on it? Caesar's, they replied. Well then, he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. That's why. Render to Caesar that which is due is this week's command. Render to Caesar. Well, we have our own form of render to Caesar these days. It's called pay your taxes, or Caesar will get you. But before we get into all that, I'm going to go right here and get this little old burn going. Even though it's warm enough we don't need it, we still got to have it for Burn Friday Burn to be. Burn Friday Burn. Stick around. I'll be right back. Yeah. See, I told you it wouldn't take long. So we're going to go back to the book of Matthew, back in chapter 22, and we're going to talk a little bit about what led up to this passage. We're going to go to the book of Matthew, chapter 22, verses 15 through 22. And Jesus was teaching the people about taxes. Verse 15. The Pharisees met together to plot how to trap Jesus into saying something for which he could be arrested. See, they were always doing that. They were always looking for a reason to trap him in his words. But Jesus always had the right thing to say where they couldn't legally do anything. 16. They sent some of their disciples along with the supporters of Herod to meet with him. Teacher, they said, we know how honest you are. You teach the way of God truthfully. You are impartial and don't play favorites. Now tell us what you think about this. Is it right to pay taxes to Caesar or not? See, they were under rule from Rome. They had been conquered by the Romans. Verse 18. But Jesus knew their evil motives. You hypocrites, he said. He always called them out, didn't he? You hypocrites, he said. Why are you trying to trap me? Here, show me a coin used for the taxes. Then they handed him a Roman coin. He asked, whose picture and title are stamped on it? Caesar's, they replied. Well then, he said, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. See, God created man in his image according to his own likeness. So God's likeness is stamped on us. You see what I mean? And you see what Jesus meant? Caesar's image was stamped on that. His reply amazed them, and they went away. That amazes me, that they went away. Again. Yeah. They were, like I said, they were always trying to trap him into saying something which they could falsely accuse him of doing something or saying something against Caesar. And, well, what exactly was tribute? They asked him. They said, the version I read says taxes, and the King James version called it tribute. And the tribute in Jesus' day was what was called a poll tax of 1 denarius per person, which was about a day's wage. And it was assessed on the entire population, including the temple ministers. So the temple ministers, they didn't want Jesus getting away with it. He was a traveler. Jesus was a traveling preacher. Yeah, he held tentless revivals everywhere he went. The publicans were responsible to collect the tax and transmit it to the Roman treasury. This tribute would be similar to an income tax today. Like I said, our own Caesar charges you because you're a citizen. Somebody's got to support the government, I guess, So our government, which according to our Constitution is by the people and for the people, meaning we elect those people that are in the positions to rule over us. Sometimes we don't do a very good job of choosing the right person for the job. But they are the ones that are responsible to make sure that we are protected with a military force. And our military doesn't do it for free. We take care of them by paying taxes so that they can receive a wage for their service to defend, keep our freedom. So we should express gratefulness to God for our country and even for our government, although sometimes it doesn't work quite like it was supposed to. There's a lot that could be said about and against governments around the world. If we fail to to focus on God's purpose for the money we give to our government, our tribute, we'll tend to hoard it for ourselves. And in our country, if you don't make too much money, you don't have to pay tribute. Only those who can afford to pay tribute do. Back to that little passage in Matthew where those guys were trying to trap Jesus. See, their secret goal was to trap him in what he was going to say. They hoped that Jesus would tell them that the tax was unlawful. They assumed he would want to do this because it would please all the Jews. According to the scriptures that we just read, neither the Herodians, the supporters of Herod, or the Pharisees, the temple priests, could condemn him for his answer. That indicates that he responded to them from a higher level of understanding than what they thought he had. And the debate over taxation can be resolved only by understanding and accepting God's perspective on money. It's not to be hoarded, it's to support the needy. A lot of governments are needy because the people demand protection, for one, and they demand leadership, they demand security. So it's only fitting that we should pay tribute to Caesar. And a lot of times we tend to view money as something that we deserve to have. Well, actually, the only thing we deserve to have is our freedom to worship God. Wages is something that is earned, so that's the only reason you deserve to be paid for labor, is because you earn it. Just like death, you earn it. The wages of sin is death. So we're born into sin because of Adam handing down the sinful nature to man. So we deserve our wages, which is death. I'm going to try not to keep you long, but here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go to the book of Luke, chapter 12, with verse 16, and going through verse 21. He told them a story. Jesus, he told them a story. A rich man had a fertile farm that produced fine crops. He said to himself, "What should I do? I don't have room for all my crops." Then he said, "I know, I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones." A hoarder? Then I'll have room enough to store all my wheat and other goods. And I'll sit back and say to myself, "My friend, you have enough stored away for years to come. Now take it easy. Eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool, you will die this very night. Then who will get everything you worked for?" Yeah, a person is a fool to store up earthly wealth, but not have a rich relationship with God. See, Jesus said, your relationship with God is more important than storing up and hoarding a bunch of earthly goods, like a lot of money. And in this guy's case, at that time, food, crops, was money. Even today, if you're a farmer, you growing your own food, whether it be meat or vegetables. If you grow your own food, it's like money in the bank. People do store up enough from season to season so that they will have enough ample supply to last the year so they can grow some more. They save some seeds and can some goods, make some jelly, and store some pumpkins for pies. And while you're at it, grow some pecans so you can have some pecan pies too. Those are good. I'm going to stir this far. Alright. That rich man was told that he would die, and then who would have his wealth? Well, Proverbs has got something to say about that too. We're going to look at Proverbs 23 and verses 4 and 5. Don't wear yourself out trying to get rich. Be wise enough to know when to quit. In the blink of an eye, wealth disappears, for it will sprout wings and fly away like an eagle. Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through 6. Everyone must submit to governing authorities, for all authority comes from God, and those in positions of authority have been placed there by God. So anyone who rebels against authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and they will be punished. For the authorities do not strike fear in people who are doing right, but in those who are doing wrong. Would you like to live without fear of the authorities? Do what is right, and they will honor you. The authorities are God's servants, sent for your good. But if you are doing wrong, of course you should be afraid, for they have the power to punish you. They are God's servants, sent for the very purpose of punishing those who do what is wrong. So you must submit to them, not only to avoid punishment, but also to keep a clean conscience. Verse 6. Pay your taxes too, for these same reasons. For government workers need to be paid. They are serving God in what they do. Give to everyone what you owe. Pay your taxes and government fees to those who collect them, and give respect and honor to those who are in authority. So, see, that's what God thinks about taxes. The people He has allowed to take positions of authority need to be paid. How would you like to call 911 and there not be anybody there to answer the phone, no matter what your emergency, whether you needed an ambulance or you needed the police? The police need to be paid, and the EMTs that work at the fire department, they respond to fires and emergency situations and automobile accidents, and they need to be paid as well. So don't murmur grumble about having to pay taxes, and respect those people. Be grateful, not murmur. Now, you pay your taxes, you invest in your government, so the government is yours, right? You pay their wages, so you should be motivated by that to pray for your government officials. God said, for where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. I just can't get past that, can I? Everything seems to be a heart issue, and it is. If our heart is not right, if your heart's not right with God, well, your heart has to be right with God. So, how about this? I said pray for your government officials. Make sure and pay your taxes so your police can be paid. I don't know what your thoughts are about police. Some people say that they should be defunded, but they're the very ones that need them. They're the ones that call 911 when they're getting robbed, when they get in a wreck. You know, there's so many reasons you need police. And the greater our burden for the spiritual needs for our officials, such as those, the smaller the tax burden will seem, because the social situation in the cities and in the country too. I mean, we need the sheriff to come out every once in a while when we live in the country. And it is the police, the police officials that help keep crime down. But of course, there you go again. If your heart is right with God, the crime situation is going to be minimal. So if you want to defund the police, defund your criminal activities. Get your heart right with God. And cheerfully, with a grateful heart, pay your taxes, so that I can have the police when I want them, even if you don't want them. I read that passage where Jesus said, just render to Caesar what is due. And in Romans chapter 13, verse 8, I read that we should owe no man anything. Well, that's right. We shouldn't owe anyone. We should always look to God and His law of love as a standard of what is due. And God's standard of that is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So love is what is due. Pay your dues. Our dues to God. Follow His commands. And that's what this is about. The commands of Christ. Follow the commands of Christ. And that will help you get your heart situation right. First, we have to give ourselves to God. There's your heart situation. And even then, you're still going to have heart issues, because we have within us a sinful nature. So all our efforts for doing good, unless we allow God's Holy Spirit to dwell within us and subdue the sinful nature, none of our efforts are going to benefit us or anyone else. So, render to Caesar that which is due. Pay your taxes. Love one another. And join me next week, where we will go over briefly command number 39. And I just mentioned this. Love the Lord with all your heart, soul, and mind. So, next week, we might be doing this in the snow instead of in the sun. We'll see. Join me and find out. The Lord bless and keep you.